Hare Krishna, please accept the all purification of the body. This is Nikunja Rasada from German from Maryland.
Hare Krishna, Nikunja Ras Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Guru Maharaj. This is Manigal Das.
Hare Krishna, Amrita Das Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna Maharaji, this is Rita from Clarksville, Maryland.
Hare Krishna, Rita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining. Anybody else who would like to announce their name?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Geeta from Maryland. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Gita ji, Dandavat Pranam, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna, we are so fortunate to have Her Grace Jayashri Mataji from New Vrindavan, and Mataji will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagvatam 7.5.8. So Mataji, please take over the call now and welcome to the call. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
1 second.
Yeah.
Put pods on, but I don't think that's going to help. Whoever was speaking in the beginning, I couldn't understand a word they were saying. So I was wondering if mine was also muffled.
No, Mataji, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, well, I'm going to disconnect these ear pods. 1 second here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, Mataji. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Hello, everyone. Hare Krishna. Good morning. Welcome to this wonderful time of the morning when we can make some spiritual advancement easiest. Brahma Muhurta, or actually it's a little after that maybe.
Yes, Mataji.
All right, let's see here. Radha Swami is here.
Oh, yes, Mataji. Hari Bol.
And he is up at the temple right now and he's leaving. So I'm happy to be here and sad that I can't go out to the temple.
Oh, Krishna. Sorry, Mataji.
It's a dilemma. But we had a program yesterday. Not exactly a program, it was an impromptu get together. So we were with him for some hours yesterday. It was really nice. And then Malati and I had gone to New York for the 50th anniversary of Radha Muralidhar over the weekend so it was very nice.
Yes, you can please share some realization after the class, Mataji. Please. Yeah.
Yes. Right, so Srimad Bhagvatam.
Yeah.
Jaya Radha Madhava Vijana Baba Srivarani Yasaranandana Jadajana Yamuna Tira Anatari Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Astratir Satis Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Astratir Satis Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Nanti Kurta Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sri Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kundi Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan ki jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. If I could ask everyone to mute, that would be really good. That would be very good.
Yes, Madhuri.
Thank you. So we're reading from the beautiful Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, text number 8, and a few more after that. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Second, I'm trying to open my screen here. Okay. Sanskrit scholar. You want to
Yes,
do this?
Hare Krishna. Graha 7.5.8. Grahamanitamahuya prahladam daityayajakaha prashasya lakshmanaya vacha samapruchhanta samabihi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, synonyms. Oops, dear. Graham. To the place of the teachers, Sanda and Amarka, Anitam brought, Ahuya, calling, Prahadam, Prahlad, Aditya Yakaha, the priest of the demon Hiranyakasipu, Prasyas, by pacifying, Slaksnaya, with a very mild Vakcha voice, Samprichahata. They questioned Sambihi by very agreeable words. Translation. When Hiranyakasipu's servants brought the boy Prahlad back to the Gurukula, the place where the Brahmins taught the boys, the priest of the demons Sanda and Amarka pacified him with very mild voices and affectionate words. They inquired from him as follows. So before I read this purport, I'm just going to read a couple of the other verses, and then I'll go back to the purport for this verse. So, one second here. So the next verse. Dear son Prahlad, all peace and good fortune unto you. Kindly do not speak lies, just reply with the truth. These boys you see are not like you, for they do not speak in a deviant way. How have you learned these instructions? How has your intelligence been spoiled in this way? Text number 10. O best of your family, has this pollution of your intelligence been brought about by you or by the enemies? We are all your teachers and are very eager to hear about this. Please tell us the truth. So the purport to the first verse. By Srila Prabhupada. Sanya and Amarka, the priests of the demons, were eager to know from Prahlad Maharaj who the Vaishnavas were that came to instruct him in Krishna consciousness. Their purpose was to discover the names of these Vaishnavas. In the beginning, they did not threaten the boy because when threatened, he might not identify the real culprits. Therefore, they very mildly and peacefully inquired as follows. Om Aganatim Randasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We're born in the darkness of ignorance, but our spiritual master is kindly opening our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So we offer our most humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. I'm going to shut the door 1 second. I'm in my new apartment finally, and there's still some noise from the trucks going by. So, Sanya and Amarka, as we know, were the sons of Sukracharya. And Sukracharya was, in many cases, the spiritual master of the demons. We hear his name mentioned so many times. So I looked up Sukracharya a little bit because we see his sons are Hiranyakasipu's teachers for the children of his community. And Prabhupada talks a bit about Sukracharya. He says in Srimad Bhagvatam 8:20-14, the difference between the behavior of Bali Maharaj and that of his spiritual master, Sukracharya, was that Bali Maharaj had already developed love Godhead, whereas Sukracharya, being merely a priest, thus Sukracharya was never inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to develop in devotional service. And it goes on in another verse, Sukracharya. Sukra means seminal. Seminal acharya means they don't really know. In India, there's a class of men that are called gurus. They are professional gurus, basically seminal gurus. So Sukracharya, he was a learned scholar. He knew everything in certain ways. And he knew that it was Vamanadev, that it was the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says, here Vamanadev, He is an incarnation of Vishnu. He has come to cheat Bali. He will ask something and then he will take everything from Bali. Sukracharya knew it. So sometimes cheating also done by the Supreme Lord for the sake of the devotee. And on in this 7th canto again, the great Saint Narada Muni said, the demons headed by Hiranyakasipu accepted Sukracharya as their priest for ritualistic ceremonies. And Sukracharya's son, Sanya and Amarka, lived near Hiranyakasipu's palace. I think you must have read this already. Prabhupada says, in the beginning of the life story of Prahlad is recounted as follows. Sukracharya became the priest of the atheists, especially Hiranyakasipu, and thus his son, Sanya and Amarka, resided near Hiranyakasipu's residence. Sukracharya should not have become the priest of Hiranyakasipu because Hiranyakasipu and his followers should not have become the priest. We're atheists. A Brahmin should become a priest of a person interested in advancement of spiritual culture. The very name Sukracharya, however, indicates a person interested in obtaining benefits for his sons and descendants, regardless of how the money comes. A real Brahmin would not become a priest of atheistic men. So we see throughout Prabhupada's time here, he many times mentions the caste Brahmins and people that are seminally in a position of teaching. But then you hear that whole discussion with Bhakti Siddhanta when he took the place of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of that gathering that was to talk about who was the more advanced position, the Brahmin or the Vaishnava. Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, as we know, he made all this great commentary about how great the Brahmin class was and how respectful and how qualified. But then he also went on to say that a Vaishnava is actually in a higher position because he is a devotee of the Lord. And he also has all these other qualifications that a Brahmin is supposed to have. What we see in this case, Prahlad's teachers, Sanya and Amarka, are from a father who is just a seminal teacher. He's not really a spiritual teacher. And those of us who are born in America aren't used to these sabdas, these places where people speak the Bhagvatam or do sacrifices. You don't see that in America. So we weren't familiar with all that. But then the more you associate and see that there are people that are Brahmins, that are priests of families that aren't necessarily real spiritualists. And Prabhupada mentions that here, that he shouldn't have become the priest of Hiranyakasipu because they were atheists. And if he's actually a spiritual person, he wouldn't become the spiritual master of such personalities. So Prahlad is born into the family of demons, right? He's surrounded by demoniac personalities. But I was thinking, well, okay, so what exactly, I know Krishna talks about it a lot in the Bhagavad Gita, the divine and demoniac natures. So we're going to skim through this a little bit just to see what the difference is. So in text, chapter 1, text 3, or text 4, no, chapter 16, text 1 and 3, 1 to 3. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said fearlessness, which Prabhupada certainly was fearless. The more I hear of Prabhupada's traveling to America, Radhanath Maharaj, it was so nice yesterday. Maharaj was just sitting there amongst old friends that he lived in New Vrindavan with for such a long time. And he was talking about Prabhupada in coming to the West and how his first time with Sally Agarwal, how he came to America. Actually, he mentioned that Prabhupada's son, his youngest son that met him off at the boat, right now his name slips my mind, but he said he had a long conversation with him. And he saw him off at the boat and he was worried because his father really didn't know anyone in America and that his father's health wasn't really very good. And he knew he didn't have any money. But it was a very intimate conversation with the son of Srila Prabhupada. It was very interesting. So Prabhupada was one of these people. I mean, I can't imagine being fearless like that. Abhay Charan means fearless. So. And the qualities, the pure qualities of a divine person, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, which of course Srila Prabhupada was totally knowledgeable, amazingly knowledgeable. Charity. How much charity can one give than their whole life and their whole time? You know, we are newer devotees, of course, than Srila Prabhupada. And we give our time, okay, I was at the temple for a few hours today. Okay, I was, I gave $50, and we're, like it says, even the pauper is proud of his penny. So we have some pride with our minute amount of devotional service, but Prabhupada was like 24/7. It's hard to imagine that sacrifice, that charity of always being Krishna conscious and always passing it on. Just quite amazing. Self-control. Srila Prabhupada was totally controlled. Performance of sacrifice, which he established all over the world. Study of the Vedas, which he established all over the world. Austerity. Prabhupada showed so much austerity. Simplicity, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding. I find myself, I'm a great fault finder. It's terrible. It's like in the heart. You don't maybe say anything, but you see the faults of others instead of seeing their great or their endeavor, at least appreciating their endeavor. Compassion for all living entities. Freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bard, belong to the godly men endowed with divine nature. So, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but these are the qualities I'm trying to develop in myself. And I have to say, I probably, and I feel like I've made a little advancement in this life, and I'm so happy. I can see the little bit of advancement in my life, in my heart, in my way of doing things, in my thinking. It's just, we're so fortunate to have this process. And then Krishna talks about the demoniac. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of the demoniac nature. I mean, how is it that Prahlad, a beautiful young child, his only fault was that he was devoted to God. And look what his father did or tried to do to him. His father. Look at the qualities of Hiranyaka, his arrogance, his anger, his harshness. What a demon. And Krishna goes on in the Bhagavad Gita. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. And he says that there are two kinds of created beings. One are called divine, one are called demoniac. He said, I'm already discussed the divine. Now he goes on to talk about the demoniac nature. And if you read, there's like 8 verses, and it describes this age and this time just so precisely. And some of the politicians and people that are leaders in this world, the demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. What did we just see when I went to see my mother in last month? I went in May. And she was watching, of course, the trial of Mr. Trump. I mean, what the leader of the American, United States of America, such an amazing opportunity of a country to lead the world in so many things. If America had actual great leadership, it could help change the heart and the way of America. If it was really like a king that actually could control things. Unfortunately, democracy doesn't always work like that. But here is the past leader of this country, and he's found to be criminally charged for his debauchery, his lies, his cheating. It's like, wow, how could he possibly have even been voted in? But how could anyone vote for him now? I mean, I have nothing against the man, and maybe he's trying his best, but at the same time, I'm just pointing out that these qualities, these demoniac qualities, if they're in the leader, then what hope is there for the society? Just unfortunate time. The demoniac are lost to themselves and have no intelligence, engaged in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. And unfortunately, they don't even know that they're in a demoniac state. I mean, everyone knows that ultimately we know, ultimately they're devotees of the Lord. Like Hiranyakasipu, he was actually Jai or Vijay, but that was a pastime. But these people, they're just misled and contaminated by the society. I was giving class in Hawaii, and it was talking about how people are victimized in this age by the society that we live in, right? Krishna goes on to say, the demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. Isn't that what's being promoted for everyone? Yes, let's just become wealthy and we'll be successful. No, it doesn't work like that. Sure, people need to have money to live. But what are they doing with their money? We were just in New York. And it's like a city, just massive amounts of stores. And New York is wonderful in so many ways, so much fabric for deities and trims for deities and flowers. And, you know, on one side you see the horrible meat markets and the, you know, right across from where we were staying in a very posh area was like one was called the Speakeasy, which in the old days, in the 20s, roaring 20s, Speakeasy was like a bar. And the next one was like some kind of naked something. I mean, and it was a really nice area. This is where Divya lives. We were in Divya's place. This is a very high class neighborhood. It's like right there in your face. You're faced with, you know, meat eating, as if it's like, wow, wonderful, let's have this kind of meat. And then sex, okay, this is normal, let's have all this, you know, promoting these things. So you don't have to go far. And when the leaders are behind all of this type of stuff, when the leader is doing such sinful activities with prostitutes and playgirls and playboy ladies, and, you know, it's like, what is the hope that the society is going to do anything except glide down farther and farther? When I was in LA, I was spending time with my granddaughter, and as most people of this age, she was sitting and watching things on, you know, when she came home from school. And you know, some of the things were like, there was a cartoon, The Simpsons, just like, you know, I thought it was like cartoons when I was young. Okay, turn on Casper the Friendly Ghost or Donald Duck and he's playing, or Olive Oil and Popeye, you know, just fun, silly stuff. But The Simpsons was just like lewd innuendos and sexual things some of times, and it was like, whoa, how things have degraded. In the movies, you know, you can't even want to watch anything like that. There's just so much degradation being pumped into the hearts and the minds of the people in general. It's being allowed. It's being allowed by people in charge. That's the problem. When the demoniac mentality is propagated and let run rampant and not controlled by a strong, pure ruler, you have a society that's running wild all over the world. And the sinful activities are just mounting and mounting, and the reactions are just mounting and mounting. So we see so much poverty and pestilence and misuse of funds, and it's like, what a terrible time. But then, of course, here Sunday and Amarka are trying to find out from Prahlad, who has changed your mind out of this demoniac, wonderful society that you're in? How have you changed to become a devotee and seeing things differently? Your classmates aren't like you. So who has come, and who is the person responsible for your change of heart? So they're trying to get that out of him nicely. So enter the hero, Srila Prabhupada. Here is Kali Yuga running forward, just taking a toll on the whole world. Yes, let's kill more animals. Let's torture them first. That's fun. Let's have more sex. Let's have sex at 13. Sure, take birth control. You don't have to be responsible. Okay, you want to relax? Here's some vodka. Here's some beer. Here's some drugs. Let's make drugs legal. Okay, you want to gamble? Sure. Las Vegas, Sin City. Let's extend gambling. We can have it in more places. And then people can be happy and relaxed, losing all their money to the resorts. Okay, let's propagate this happy life of Kali Yuga. But then enters Srila Prabhupada with his torchlight of knowledge. And he goes through the darkness of Kali Yuga with great fearlessness. He comes over on a boat. Maharaj said yesterday it was actually 38 days on the boat. I mean, coming to America with nothing, no money, no credit cards, no backing, no house already set up, nothing. I wouldn't even go into town with nothing. And here he is, so bravely coming to America just with his books, a warrior, the commander-in-chief of the Vaishnavas, starting a worldwide movement in the guise of a simple, elderly gentleman. And with the potency given to him by Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and the previous acharyas and teachers, he goes on to open the storehouse of love of God and knowledge and connection to the all-merciful Lord Chaitanya, who doesn't look and see whether one is qualified or unqualified. He's just giving freely to everyone, anywhere, anytime, devotional connection with the Supreme Lord. It's like this bubble in the middle of this terrible Kali Yuga. And it has an effect on people. I've never preached to my family, never, because, you know, they wouldn't go that way. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I have distributed lots of prasadam. And somehow or other, I brought my sister to the temple years ago, probably 45 years ago. And she loved it. She was only like 15 and she was a wild woman at the time. I mean, really a wild woman. She definitely changed about 5 years after that, but she was a wild woman at the time. But she loved the temple. And now wherever she goes, she always stops in. But at one point, she actually, and I never even talked to her about it, she just became a vegetarian and is still a vegetarian like 30 years later. But I've never preached. It's the association. And it just so happened when we went to New York, by Krishna's kindness, she had gone there with her husband for her birthday, which was on Sunday. So there I was, going to New York too, going to be in the same general area as her. So I texted her, I said, why don't we meet up? And I didn't know how it was going to happen or if she would have time because she was there. She loves New York and she, wanted to go to the Yankees game and stuff. So I didn't know how it would work out, but just see how things worked out. It was amazing. I was texting her and then she said, well, I'm not really too far away. I'll just come over. So there I was at the Bhakti Center. And there was, the 50th anniversary of Radha Muralidhar. Radhanath Maharaj is there. There's all these devotees from New York, all packed in. And there was this wonderful kirtan going on. Maharaj hadn't come yet. So she texted me. I was upstairs. She texted me and she said, I'm here. So I started going down the stairs and I met her at the bottom of the stairs. And so she came up the stairs with me. If you've been to the Bhakti Center, there's a place where you take your shoes off. And there we took our shoes off, we turned around, and coming right into our face was Radhanath Swami, just the person I had hoped for her to see or whatever. I don't bother Maharaj. I never bother him for taking his time because so many other people take his time. But I introduced him to my sister, and of course he did his normal pranams. But it was like just a moment's association with a great devotee. How fortunate my sister was. And then we went into the temple, just, stepped in. We didn't sit down. She couldn't stay long. But she just loved the kirtan that was going on. She was so happy. I mean, it's our influences other people. It's such a wonderful movement. So she was so happy and she just loved it and she wanted to stay, but she couldn't. And all these people, because I'm an older devotee, there's all these people, coming up, oh, Mother Jayashree, putting their hands together. She said, wow, you're famous. I said, I'm not famous. I've just been around a long time. She said, no, you're famous. So I thought, well, let her think that way because that made her proud of me, which is good for her. It's like a positive thing. I remember reading in the Bhagvatam years ago, if they can't do devotional service, if they just appreciate it and know it's the right thing, they get great benefit. So I thought, wow, Krishna, what unlimited mercy. My sister has come and, you've given her this opportunity. Krishna is so kind. Maharaj yesterday was talking about how we have all this mercy, but there's also the fact that we're in Kali Yuga and there's so much suffering going on. You just can't get away with it. It's not that we become devotees so we're not going to suffer. We're not going to have these things happen that we don't want to happen. While I was in New York, there was another wonderful lady staying at Divya's with us. And she wanted to do a massage on us, like foot massage. So I didn't mind. So we started talking while she was doing it. And I've come to find out her 9-year-old daughter died last year of cancer. And it was like, I also lost my daughter when she was 3.5. So we related. So I was telling her how fortunate she was that her daughter had the association. But then as we went on with the conversation, I found out that her daughter was extremely attracted to Krishna, extremely, to the point that when she was actually passing away, she would say, oh, I can see Radha, and she's like doing like this, and can you see it? Look at how beautiful. And I mean, just like, wow. And she was telling, and Radhanath Maharaj initiated the daughter last year. She flew her daughter to Alachua, where Maharaj was, and he initiated the daughter. And the daughter was always saying things to the mother for like the year before that the mother got initiated too. Things like, I know I'm going to get initiated. I know he's going to initiate me. And the mother would say, oh, well, that's good that you think that way. There was some of the things her daughter would say, like, I have to go and see Maharaj. And she could hardly walk. Just, you could see some of these souls that are coming our way are advanced personalities. And Krishna's making arrangements for them. We don't know who the people are that we're dealing with, the karmi on the street, the person that's doing our garbage, our taxi driver, our Uber driver. We need to take the opportunity to share our good fortune, as Indradumna Swami would say. It's such a wonderful movement. We have so much opportunity to just share prasadam with people at Christmas time, or, you know, it's just, it has such an impact. We don't really always know what wheels we're going to start up for someone in their march toward the personality of Godhead, as Prabhupada would say. So in the story, we see someone who was born in a demoniac family, just by the association of a great devotee, they can become a devotee. So here we are in Kali Yuga, and so many innocent people, but with demoniac tendencies still. Well, look at Mother Vishal. She was.
ना आज वानी उधर गई हुई है ना ओरिएंटेशन. So Yogesh was looking after. तो मेरा पक्का नहीं था, मैं कहा कहीं मुझे आई थी. She's back home.
Haribo, someone's
अच्छा
not
चलो आज
muted.
बेटा, how was your holiday in you enjoyed Yellowstone? It's really nice. Nature देख के आदमी.
I will mute her.
Thank you.
She's on mute.
Yeah, that's why it's better for people to be muted, because you never know who's going to come to your door, what phone call is going to come. It's just the way it is. Kind of lost my train of thought, but that's okay.
Sorry, Mataji.
Oh, we're kind of like a salamander. You know, a salamander, if it's on a green tree, it turns green. If it's on a brown branch, it'll turn brown. Our association makes so much of a difference. So if we associate with devotees as much as possible. Of course, Prabhupada also said in our movement, there are demons in the guise of devotees. So, you know, I'm not exactly sure how to take that exactly, but we see that we all have these demoniac qualities still. And this is what we're trying to purify with our chanting and our service, so we can understand that in this age, the demon and the devotee are in the same body. So like that example about feeding the dog, whichever dog you feed, the demon or the devotee is going to become the strongest. So even though we're in the Hare Krishna movement associated with devotees, we can see that people can still do bad things. They can steal. We have people stealing here at the temple. About 2 months ago, someone who lives here in the community, who calls himself a devotee, who is really not an advanced person. One of our administrators had come back from a trip, and someone threw a brick through their car window that said, "Welcome back." And at the same time, put some kind of construction foam in the exhaust of one of our very expensive big machines. And someone did some other things with the deity garlands that wasn't right. It's like, okay, we're devotees, but we're just beginners, you know. We have to be serious, sincere and serious, not to waste time, because we have a long way to go still. And we don't know if it's our first time with Krishna consciousness, or 10th time, or second time, but we have to take the opportunity as seriously as possible so we can make advancement. We have no idea when our life is going to be over. Look at this little girl. She was 9 years old. My daughter was 3.5. A friend of mine at the program yesterday, she came over and started talking to me. I said, "Oh, haven't seen you in such a long time." She said, "Yeah, she doesn't live near New Vrindavan, maybe 2 hours away." But then she went on to tell me, yeah, she said, "I found I had stage 4 cancer." She said, she said, "I didn't feel bad at all." She said, "I just couldn't breathe very well. So I went to the doctor and they put me in the hospital and took out like 2 liters of fluid on my lungs. That's why I couldn't breathe. And then when they tested it, they found out that I had cancer. And when they did the MRI, they found out MRI, or I don't know what it's called, a PET scan, I think. They found out the cancer's all over my body. It's like, wow, and she looks fine. So we don't know. We just don't know. Today might be the last day we are in this body. And it's not something for scare tactics. It's just a reality. So we want to be as careful as possible. As careful as possible, to be as serious as possible. And make as much advancement and chant our rounds as carefully as possible. And just make as much advancement as we can. We have so much opportunity. Let's see. All right, I think that is it. Anybody there?
We are here. Yeah, just such a wonderful class, Mataji. Your classes are always filled with personal experiences and guidance. And so nicely you explain about Prahlad Maharaj and the demonical association of the devotees, and sharing about your sister also. So yes, it makes no difference when we don't tell to do something, but when they see us, they try to follow, or they like this, and everything is upon Krishna's mercy also. So thank you so much for sharing, Mataji.
Thank you very much.
So,
I try.
yeah, if nobody has any question, you please, Mataji, share. Yesterday you have got Association of His Holiness Radha Swami, more on that. So the New York Temple 50th anniversary.
Well, the New York Temple was the 50th anniversary of Radha Muralidhar. So we were telling stories. And he was telling one story, because Radha Muralidhar started in Cleveland, came to New Vrindavan, then went to New York to Greenpoint, which was one of Kirtanananda's centers, and then went to the Sanctuary, which was another one of Kirtanananda's centers. And Radhanath Maharaj was, of course, not in the position he's in now. He wasn't a guru. He was a sannyasi. He didn't have a congregation and, this type of speaking engagements that he has now. He was a simple sannyasi doing some college programs and such. So he had a van that he would travel in, and he was asked to bring Radha Muralidhar to New York, to Greenpoint. So they told him last minute, and he started really late. And he didn't get there until like 2 a.m. That's into New York at 2 a.m. So he parked the van in front of the temple, which was just a little apartment kind of thing, and knocked on the door. Of course, nobody answered, but he didn't want to leave the deities in the van because so many vehicles get broken into in New York. So he slept in the van with the deities. And then early in the morning, maybe 3, he could hear a gang outside. breaking into vehicles. And it worried him because he was alone. You know, Maharaj is a simple man. And so he was hoping they wouldn't come to the vehicle. And he was praying to Radha Muralidhar. And what happened was the gang did come to the van, and they used some kind of tool and took the lock out of the vehicle door. And he started really praying to Radha Muralidhar. And then they started to open the door. And he said, just spontaneously, he said, as if he was prompted from within, he just started barking really loud. And he did it in the temple on Saturday, showing how he was barking. He was barking really loud, like this vicious dog. And he could hear the gang outside saying, whoa, that sounds like a wild dog. We better not go in that van. So they closed the door and went to the next vehicle. And then he, I guess, just stayed there and chanted. And then someone else came, and the door had already been unlocked. The lock had already been taken out by the first gang. So the second person or persons started to open the door, and he did the same thing, and they also ran away. So that was how Radha Muralidhar got to New York. Maharaj always has good stories.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing this story of Guru Maharaj and Radha Muralidhar. Yeah, we were wondering the temple is new here, like not 50-year-old, the Bhakti Center. So how the deities are 50th anniversary. So now you answer our question. So thank you so much, Mataji.
Yeah,
And also,
the deities were installed. Actually, he was saying the deities were installed without proper protocol. In those days, any deities that were installed, especially Radha Krishna, had to go through Srila Prabhupada. And those deities were not properly authorized by Srila Prabhupada. But anyway, we heard a little bit of the story. Nobody even knew who it was that brought the deities. You know, Malati herself bought a lot of the deities from Jaipur. She brought many sets of deities that we have in our temples now. Radhikala Chanji, I think the ones in Detroit. Anyway, she was personally the one that went to Jaipur and got the deities, different sets of deities.
yes, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, last week only we visited Detroit Temple, and the deities are so beautiful, Mataji.
Yes.
The temple is also so beautiful. And we heard the story of the temple also. It was a mansion by fisherman. And Prabhupada really want you have some more on no
Yes,
Mataji about that.
I was there when that building was purchased. I lived in it.
Please share Mataji something. It's so beautiful temple.
Well, the temple originally was on Jefferson, and it was a small house. Not small, 2-story house. The temple room was upstairs, but it was small. And then Laker Shrivanti, who was the fisher, her father was Fisher. No, not Fisher. Her father was the union man for the automobiles at the time. I can't remember his name. Walter Ruther. Ruther. She was a Ruther,
okay,
which was an aristocratic family from Detroit. And then Ambarish was, of course, Ford. He was a Ford. And she had some money, but of course, Ambarish has a lot of money. So they went in together and purchased this old Fisher mansion. And the Fisher mansion used to be one of Fisher's, which Fisher is the person whose company made the bodies of cars, bodies by Fisher, and that the Ford company used or different companies used. Though he was the part manufacturer. So he was very wealthy. And this house was one of his playhouses, not his home. And it had a swimming pool. It had its own boat canals. It had a boat canal behind the Fisher mansion, and it had 2 boat wells that a boat could come from the river through the canal into his downstairs of this mansion. And when you walked in the Fisher mansion, it was just amazing. And we lived there for years, actually. So when you walked in, it's all tiled and artwork. And when you go up the beautiful wooden staircase, there's these huge rooms, and the original furniture that was in those rooms was just amazing. I mean, the building now would be worth probably $20 million or something. They bought it for $400,000. And it had a room that was actually the ballroom. It had a ceiling that looked like a sky. It had lights around the top. It had a balcony on one side and like some kind of botanical greenhouse on the other side upstairs that overlooked the ballroom. It had a place in the front where the orchestra would be. And then on the same floor as the upstairs balcony, there were these bedrooms that were probably 10 times bigger, at least 10 times bigger than any bedroom you've ever seen. And then you go down this ornate hallway into a section that had other smaller rooms that were the servants' quarters. So the building was purchased and we moved in almost right away. And in one of those huge bedrooms with this big ornate bathroom, all the ladies slept, like 12 of us, in our sleeping bags, one after another. And I had one child, and I was pregnant. And yeah, so anyway, that's how we lived. And then downstairs, the base floor was the ballroom, but downstairs from that was a bowling alley and something else, like it was his playhouse. So he'd have, balls and different dinner parties and such. So it was a fantastic, beautiful work of art. The place was amazing. And Prabhupada came, and we all showered flowers from the balcony, and the deities were installed in the ballroom. Ballroom became the temple room. I mean, it was pretty far out. We're poor people, and there we are in this amazing mansion. Prabhupada actually, the man was actually asking 400,000. And Prabhupada actually asked if he would donate it. And the man had to think a minute, but he said, no, I can't do that. Yeah, it was wonderful. And then we started buying houses across the street and down the street. Only a few blocks away is one of the most wealthy and prominent what do you call it? It's like housing area, Grosse Pointe. has its own mansions, other mansions. But what happened was this area became very degraded, and there was a whole area around it full of drug addicts and very, very poor as a slum, right outside the door almost. And when they were thinking of buying it, the devotee said, no, it's not a good neighborhood. And Prabhupada said, the neighborhood will change. And as soon as we bought it, the neighborhood started changing, and they tore down all the tenement houses and built different kinds of condominiums and townhouses and stuff. Yeah, quite amazing.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much for sharing this. And while hearing your stories, I can imagine how dedicated you are and how struggling time period was that time, but you never left Krishna consciousness. And
On the other hand, it wasn't a struggle. It was fun. We had so much fun.
When
it
in
was
Krishna conscious, yeah.
That wasn't a struggle. I mean, being most of us, and Prabhupada said that was one of our qualifications. Most of us had been raised in good families, but we voluntarily gave up that lifestyle to become hippies, to get out of the materialistic realm. I mean, it was still materialistic, but it wasn't that all there is to life is working and making money and getting a house with 2 cars, and you're going to be, for nothing. Most of us had become just naturally renounced. So to live a simple life like that was not hard. It wasn't like, oh, I wish I had my own room. It was like, okay, there was, I don't know, some kind of empowerment, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, because and the structure and the carving, everything was like a new Vrindavan. So I asked that Prabhuji that, oh, this looks like a new Vrindavan, the dome, the temple dome and everything. And he said, this is not like a new Vrindavan. New Vrindavan is like built like this, he said. So then he told the story of everything. So that was so amazing, Mataji. And now you added more on that. So thank you so much, Mataji.
Okay, I need to go. I don't know if
Yes,
Mara left already, but I wouldn't mind going up to the temple and seeing.
Yes, sure, Mataji. Thank you so much. And let's pay obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarvyasya kripa sindhu vacha. Patitana pavanebhyo. Santukoti Vaishnavanda ki jai. Namacharya Srimad
Jai.
Jai Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Jai.
Har Krish Jai Shri Mataji ki jai. Thank you.
Jai. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you
Thank
very
you, Mother
much.
Jayashree. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mother.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mataji.
See you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Pranam.